Don't dim your light to keep other people from your past comfortable. So today I'm talking about ways that we become uncomfortable with our growth because people who used to know us, people who knew us last year, even 10 years ago, people who grew up with us, right? They may be uncomfortable with who you're becoming. And so you may start to shrink back. I'm here to tell you, don't do that. And so I'm going to start, I think I'm going to break this up into two parts, but I'm just going to start with some notes that I took about my own journey and what I'm seeing from people that reach out to me as clients for coaching and for some of the struggles that I see others go through. And so, first, growth can be uncomfortable for others. Your growth makes other people uncomfortable. Now, I don't personally think that should be, but often, if we were perceived one way, if we have always been one way, if we didn't necessarily share some of our dreams or some of our goals, when we start to grow, other people who have always known us in a certain box, in a certain light, who've always seen us a certain way, may struggle a little bit with your growth or a lot, but that is not your problem. It's not your job to make them comfortable. It's not your job to stop growing because they refuse to grow. And I'm very passionate about this because for years, and I mean years, this was an area that I struggled with. And when I say struggled, I mean sincerely struggled with, right? Your progress may initially be dismissed as a phase, right? By people who have always known you. And this can happen for a lot of reasons. Sometimes it's just because people who have known you saw you fail, saw you start and stop, saw you try and it didn't come into fruition. So what? That doesn't mean that the growth that you have now needs to be dismissed. And if people can't receive you, you may have to move on from that person. You may have to just grow until you're confident enough to face that person and confront it. Whatever the case is, you're definitely not supposed to shrink back. You're not supposed to allow the past failures that you may have experienced to hinder your future progress and hinder you even trying. Next, people hold on to past versions of you, right? Because how you were when they knew you 10 years ago may make them more comfortable. And so often they'll hold on to that version of you. So if you start a new thing, if you start to grow in another area that they weren't even aware of that was inside of you, this may make them uncomfortable. But it's still not your place to deal with them being uncomfortable. You still need to show up anyway. You still need to shine your light and you still need to grow in whatever area that you've decided that you want to grow in, right? Because often your growth isn't only about you. Yes, there are people who knew you in the past that may be uncomfortable, but there are people who know you now and they're cheering you on, right? And they are glad that you're growing. Your growth is making somebody uncomfortable and at the same time giving someone else permission to grow in the same way. They remember your past flaws. I think I said that. Also, another reason people could hold on to past versions of you is because society conditions people to estimate your potential based on what they think you can do, right? But that's still not your problem. The third thing that I want to share about why people become uncomfortable who knew you in the past is that comparison may trigger judgment. Comparison is what the struggle may be for some. They may say, well, I knew you then and I was this way. I'm not growing in that way. Or who do you think you are? Type of attitude, right? Your growth can mirror insecurities, in other words, in some people. They may feel left behind. It may make them look at themselves and feel inadequate. It's still not your job to fix their insecurity. You still need to keep growing. Um, Often, if someone from your past starts comparing their life to yours as you're growing, it can cause resentment, right? It can be that passive aggressive resentment, or they see your content and they won't engage with it or hit like, but you see them seeing you. That's okay. You still need to grow because you have a goal. You're on your own journey and you have somewhere that you're destined to arrive. The next thing, number 4, don't dim your light to keep other people comfortable. Hiding or downplaying your accomplishments only harms you in the long run. I struggled with this for a long time. I struggled and I struggled because I shared a part of my story. I was fired twice and I ended up back in school. I ended up being a stay at home wife for the time who was a full time student. I had a lot of volunteer opportunities going on, but still, I was still judged as lazy and not productive enough. That was one phase of my life. Fast forward a few years later, and I started working again. But I had gotten so used to people from my past. It would be friends, family members, coming at me like I was not, being productive, that I started to shrink the new found, jobs or the new things that I was into or whatever it was, new opportunities that I was engaging in. This backfired. So, because I was not sharing anything that I was doing, they kept thinking of me in the same way. And so when they approached me, they would be like, "Well, I know you see me calling, you don't have anything to do." And then I finally had to start speaking up, but that's not true. I have plenty to do, right? I do this, I do this, I do this. So I'm busy. And I had to realize I played a role in that, shrinking myself back, allowing people's judgments of me, allowing their comments, their nastiness to make me shrink back, made me shrink back to the point when I started speaking up, it was a problem. I don't know if that makes any sense. The point, don't dim your light. Just keep shining it and don't cover up your accomplishments. It can lead to being undervalued when you shrink your light. That's what I was speaking about, disrespected. So people would think, well, you don't have anything else to do. Like, okay, yes, I do. What are you saying? Right? Well, they were saying what they thought, and I wasn't sharing either because I was thinking in my head, okay, you thought I wasn't much anyway. So, but one of my friends kept saying, no, you need to speak up. You're not in that place anymore, and you need to say something. And so I finally did. And that had a little friction at first, but I overcame that friction and I just pushed forward and started speaking up even more. Number 5, so boundaries that you put up as you grow, they could be misunderstood, they can be misjudged. You may miscommunicate them at first because again, you're in a learning phase and you're trying to figure out how to be more assertive, how to speak up, right? And you just need to keep speaking up until you get past it. People who don't respect your time or your growth, they may lash out at you, or when you start to put up those boundaries, they could become distant. That's not your problem either. If you saying I have something going on causes someone who knew you from the past or some friend or some family member to be upset with you, you can't manage their emotions. All you can do is put your boundary up. Don't come off of your boundary. You have to speak up and be honest in this season, remember, because you spent previous seasons shrinking back. And what did that get you? For me, I know that got me a continuation of being devalued, of being overlooked. And so that's just, you can't manage other people. You can only manage yourself. People, they may distance themselves, they may lash out. It could be something like a friend may become upset multiple times because you aren't available for something. They may not understand, your work, your travel. That's okay. The next thing I want to share in part 1 of what I'm sharing today is people may have a lack of curiosity in whatever you're pursuing now. And that may be because they're trying to deny that you're growing, right? When people don't ask about your work, when they're not specifically asking about your life and they just make assumptions, they're choosing not to see, or they're choosing to try to ignore who you are becoming, right? That's a reflection of them and not you. That's a reflection of their insecurity. And so the reason this came to mind is because I've been thinking about and reflecting a lot lately on why I do what I do. I had an interview today for a podcast, And I had to start, like, before the interview, thinking about things. How did I get here? Why do I encourage women to speak up? Why do I encourage people to speak up? Why am I like this? And it's all from a time in my life where I felt devalued, ran over, and I was not speaking up and showing up and asserting myself like I should have been. And it left me in a place of feeling just undervalued. It left me in a place of low self-confidence, of shrinking back. And I didn't like it. And so as I healed, as I grew, as I continued to move forward, I realized if I had this struggle, others may have this struggle too. And I just started writing, I started sharing, and then I started getting into the coaching spaces. I started realizing that confidence is something that a lot of people are interested in learning more about. How can they increase their confidence, right? What is confidence? And so as I started exploring it and what it looked like to me, I started realizing this is not just my journey, but I need to invite other people to come along with me. And so, yes, that is how I got here. That's my passion. And that's why I show up and talk about this so much. Lately, I've been sharing content about my exercise journey. I've been sharing that more. And that's just to, you know, show you who I really am, give you a day in the life type content, and just let you more into my world, and to see that I'm not only saying these things, but I'm practicing. So I'm practicing that growth little by little. I'm practicing increasing my self confidence. And so I definitely appreciate you for watching this video. Definitely like and subscribe to the channel. Share this content if you know someone who needs a boost or a reminder that they don't need to shrink their light. They need to just continue to be who they are, because they are it. They are on this earth. They are here to impact someone else in a positive way. Your story, whatever it is that you're shrinking back from, is somebody else's saving grace. And so thank you, and I will see you on the next video.